Hello, Internet, and welcome back to Antiheroes Anonymous, or welcome for the first time if it's your first time joining us. I'm Ethan, and I'm the Dungeon Master for this 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons show. Going around the table, we have 4 lovely players who will now introduce themselves. And Nick, could you please start?
I'm Nick. I play Thaddeus Hammerlock, a human vengeance paladin.
I'm Kay. I play Harmony, who is a tiefling wild magic sorcerer.
I'm Melissa, and I play Mara Stormwind, and she is a human rogue pilot.
I'm Zach, and I play Hunter, who's a warforged, and I'm totally lost right now. Fighter Ranger.
That character I've been playing for like a year and a half.
Well, it's funny. Oh, never mind.
Longer than that.
Yeah, so we stream on Twitch every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, and then post our episodes to YouTube the following Wednesday. Throughout the show, we use a variety of custom items, as well as a custom wild magic table. Our music comes from BattleBards, TabletopAudio, and Incompetech. So if you're interested, and also our new character portraits and info cards come from Carrie Peach. So if you're interested in anything I just mentioned, you can check the channel page on Twitch for links and info, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can check the doobly-doo, the thing, the video description. There's the word.
You're on a roll.
Yep.
We're doing so good.
Words. Remember, guys, I said if things get wonky, I've got a concussion. I hit my head really hard before we started.
It like vibrated the whole floor.
Yes. So then you can go ahead and follow us on Twitter for more updates on what we're doing and all of that. Our Twitter handle is @AntiheroesAnon. And other than that, we do hope that you enjoy, and we hope to see you back here frequently. So, a little bit of recap, and then we'll get straight into things. The party got a compass, which was actually a Elderhaven Reaches style short bow from the island known as Kamekame Island. And the compass is said to guide them towards a path into the Elderhaven Reaches, which is sort of their ultimate goal at this point. Mara and Harmony, on their last night on the island, investigated a ghost ship that turned up in the harbor and seemed somehow connected to Mara's missing grandfather. Hunter, in that same night, in sort of a dream sequence, met with an ancient spirit of a great white tiger from the Elderhaven Reaches, and was granted a spirit tiger companion of his own. Thaddeus, meanwhile, in a dream of his own, learned more about the vampire Alkene's scheme for Ravenmoor, and about the connection between his deity and the Raven Queen. Later, at Melora's temple in Redwater, after a sort of misfire teleport, the group reunited with Phineas, Eli, Mint, and Dawn, all characters from past excursions into this area. Eli and Dawn decided to come with the group. However, as everyone prepared during the night, the next morning they found that Phineas had been killed rather brutally, with snakes crawling out from his innards in the middle of his temple. And on that sort of worrisome note, the group teleported to Oren's old tower in Ravenmoor, where they promptly discovered that they had filled a very tight room with a ton of different bodies, including the massive body of a winged horse known as Moonlight Sparkle. And as they appeared, there was sort of a sound from the far side of the room as a voice that is familiar to Hunter and Harmony rang out through the room and said, "Whoa, hey, where'd you guys come from?" And all of you could sort of turn and crane your necks through all the bodies in this crowded room to see that a display case mounted on a sort of a workbench, sort of a mouth-shaped sliver had cracked in it, and it had formed the words, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" And yeah, that's the scene we're starting on.
What was his
So hey, what are you guys doing here?
Is there a way out of this room?
Yeah.
There is, and actually I think that probably Thaddeus and some of the people towards the back, maybe Dawn, are kind of spilling out of the room. There's one entrance into this small room, and it seemed, I think that the door, Nasria, if I recall correctly, knocked the door off its hinges, so the door is kind of sitting on the floor.
That could happen.
The wooden floor of this ancient wizard's tower as Thaddeus and Dawn kind of fall out into that more of like a landing area. And you can see that there's a metal spiral staircase that descends downward as well as upward. And then there are 2 branching doors off of the landing that you're in.
I'll look at this case and go, Varen?
Oh,
Varen, is that you?
hey, it's you.
Yeah.
You're Orin's apprentice, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Did
And
you-
thanks to your help, I was able to meet up with him.
Well,
Boy,
did you
did
give
he
him?
look good.
Did you give him the wand? Did you tell him I miss him?
I sure did.
Oh, good. Did he's coming back, right? He remembered me? Because he left me here to guard the tower, and I did for a long time.
And he appreciates it very much, but you know, he's got a lot of work to do in the capital right now.
Oh, man. I was hoping he'd be home sooner.
He did put me in charge of the tower while he's gone, and then you're in charge while I'm gone.
Well, that's great. I mean, the crows all left. That's a positive step.
I noticed. What happened?
They cleared out a couple weeks ago. Just gone.
Just a couple of weeks.
Didn't like the new atmosphere, did they?
New atmosphere?
Haven't noticed anything strange happening around the tower?
No. I mean, I think I told you before. I don't leave this room. really.
Right.
So,
No strange visitors or anything while we've been gone?
as this conversation is going on, Moonlight Sparkle is kind of like
She did great.
neighing and breathing like horse breath on all of you in the room. It's very, very tight. And like some of you are stepping on broken Olympics and things like that.
Yeah,
It's not
that
comfortable.
is gonna call me and sprinkle out.
Okay? And there's like, I don't even know how it works, how you get a horse out of this room, but somehow you manage.
Very carefully.
Yeah.
And lunch reduce.
I'm gonna lead it up the stairs very slowly.
Oh, okay, upstairs?
Yeah.
Cool. As you...
I thought we were at the top.
No, there's one more floor.
Yeah, there's probably.
I still have the map for this tower.
Oh, yeah.
As you go up the sort of metal spiral staircase, would you make a dexterity saving throw?
Oh, yeah. I forgot to tell you.
And also for Moonlight Sparkle.
Okay.
Oops.
Alright, I'm
Sorry.
Well, these are dismal.
Moonlight Sparkle will benefit from your aura of protection.
Okay. Well, it's not great either way. I got a 9.
Jeez.
Oh,
My
no.
sparkle got
I forgot.
her dexterity is better than mine. I have to fill up the Pegasus stat block.
Oh, that's funny.
Dexterity. Okay.
then
Nicholas
reason
first got a 11.
Okay. Both you and Moonlight Sparkle, you're leading Moonlight Sparkle up, so you're ahead of Moonlight Sparkle?
Yeah.
That's probably good, otherwise you'd be crushed. As the metal steps that you're standing on turn into like a horizontal angle, or not horizontal, just sort of like a steep angle.
Turn to slide.
Basically the stairs turn into a
Yeah.
slide and you go whee, whistling down.
Was Dawn behind this?
No, Dawn was kind of like watching
She
you.
said she was spilling into the landing.
Yeah, she was on the landing kind of checking
So
out.
I like to look at her and be like, oh no, we didn't tell her.
Thaddeus goes, whoo, wishing out of sight,
Wondering
and
on myself.
crashes into Moonlight Sparkle at the bottom.
Thaddeus, watch out for the stairs. The first steps of Thursday.
And at the bottom,
Ever since he got Moonlight Sparkle, fun things have been happening in his life.
as you crash into the body of Moonlight Sparkle, who's just starting to get back up to 4 legs, you see that you're in kind of like a entranceway, and there's bookshelves that sort of line the wall, but some of them have been toppled over. There's bird poop on top of pretty much everything here. And there are just torn and moldy and like destroyed books pretty much littering the floor. But you're now a floor below it.
What?
So, oh, sweet home.
Oh, sweet. This
I
was
know
never
what I want to do, but I'm gonna let these guys finish their business.
Right. What was your question for Varian?
Oh, and no strange characters were here while we were gone?
No. Some more crows tried to come in, got them right out. But they stopped coming a couple weeks ago.
I forgot, are you able to leave? Or you just were told not to?
And there's like a pause, and then the display case, the mouth kind of like it closes, and it stays closed for a moment, and then it really opens kind of like slightly, and it says, You know, I've never really tried.
Okay.
Oh, you, Varen.
That's my name.
You're so great.
I know. Well, hey, look, if you're in charge of this tower, is there anything you want me to guard? And he sort of like opens his mouth up wide. If there is, just put it in here. I'll watch it.
I want to leave.
Put a bag of holding in.
No.
I don't think I have anything.
I have a broken goblin horn. Where did I get that? Did I get that off the island?
I think that's the only place you've run into goblins, so probably.
No, I'm thinking.
Also, that was the only place that goblins have horns, so.
That's true.
That is true.
That is a good point.
I think you picked it up in that guy's cave, in Rock's cave or something. You're walking through it. There's some stuff on it.
Oh yeah, you're probably right. You know, I don't think we have anything that we need to leave behind right now, but thank you for the offer.
Alright, yeah, I mean, that's fine. I'm just feeling a little useless. Haven't really had anything to do around here, that's all.
Well, you know, you've been doing a great job of keeping things out of the tower. I'm very proud of you, and I'm sure Oren will reward you greatly when he gets back.
Oh, I can't wait for him to be back.
I'm sure your patience will pay off soon. Then Hunter will walk out.
I'm gonna like pat him on the case on the top of the case. And
Yeah, Hunter, you, unlike Thaddeus, have a memory of this place. So you remember that the
Oh, very good one.
the two doorways that go off of this landing,
Yes.
sort of, there's one on the left and one on the right.
A map would be really great to jog my memory.
Yeah, it really would. You remember that the one on the left?
Yeah.
Or I suppose you're right as you exit the room. That's where the Kenku were sort of nesting, and there were like all kinds of like sleeping bags and things like that in that room. But the room on your left, the other direction, there was basically just this massive pile of like carry-on
Oh,
and
that's right.
other refuse that they were
doesn't
clearly
really
eating,
use that.
like rotting food and things like
Yeah,
that.
I remember that.
Ew.
Is it all gone? Is it still there?
You want to go peek in?
I want to.
Sure.
Yeah, you
For old time's sake.
you don't have a sense of smell, but Harmony and Dawn and Eli suffer from this as well. When the door opens up, there's just a wafting scent of decay that drifts into the hallway. And it's almost to the extent that you can feel your breakfast coming up a little bit. Eli actually like coughs and gags, but
I like prestidigitation the air in front of his face to get the smell out.
thanks, Harmony.
Well, it's
That
like
was
you're
truly
the
disgusting.
door.
I know.
And yeah, when you looked in, you see like the pile has diminished, but there's still
Still
this
there.
massive pile of rotting food and junk.
Smells like the work to me.
Alright. Well,
I would like
didn't
to
miss this place at all.
go upstairs.
Okay.
Very carefully.
So like I think the method you had before was you
Was
climbed up
walking
the
on the
railings.
handrails.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm gonna say, okay, Eli, follow my lead. Be careful.
All right.
And I'm gonna walk up, shimmy up the handrails.
Yeah, and Eli kind of follows behind. And you come up onto the third floor of the tower, which is pretty much how you.
Where there was like the big hole in the wall or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is exactly as you remember this. The spiral staircase comes up into the center of a circular room. There were a lot of crates piled up in here, which you don't really see anymore. There's one or two that have been left, but for the most part, this room is now empty. But in the northern face of, the northern face of the tower, there is a massive hole where it's clear that there's been some kind of a collapse and like the bricks that make up the exterior of the tower have fallen out. And you can see out into the city. And it's immediately striking to you now that you get a look into the outside that it is darker than it should be. You teleported pretty early in the morning, maybe like 7, 8 a.m. And so the sun was up, especially in Redwater where the Feywild influence had sort of made the sunlight appear brighter and things like that. The contrast is stark. You look out into over the city, and the sky is almost as if it's twilight, even though it is early in the morning.
The tower, the north-facing hole, it faces Ravenmoor?
Yeah, parts of Ravenmoor.
Was there the west or something of Raven?
I didn't draw a compass rose on my map, but
Can
oh,
I
you mean
get
the
a
tower's
look?
position exactly? Yeah, the tower is in the eastern area
Goes
of
east.
Ravenmoor.
Okay.
So looking
So-
out, you can see some of Ravenmoor. but
If
not
I
all.
like move to a certain side, try to like get a pretty good view of the city.
Yeah.
What
Certainly
what
can.
do I notice?
I should stop the mischievous music.
Now that we've entered Dark World.
Seriously.
A couple things are very striking to you. Early in the morning in Ravenmoor, around this hour, you would have expected to see people bustling about the streets, whether it's beggars looking for coin wherever they can find it, or shopkeepers opening up their shops for business, farmers bringing in their wares to sell in the central market. You don't see any of that. There are people about the street, and you can't necessarily make out too many details of them from where you are now. But they are few and far between. And as you look about the streets, you can also as you survey the buildings, you can see that the shadows that they are casting are longer and darker than they should be, even in this twilight hour. And they almost seem to like contort and take on jagged, angled, and wicked-looking aspects to themselves. And then the last thing you notice, which sort of makes you duck back and press your back against the wall of the tower, is that there are dark shapes flying above the city. From your brief look over the city, you saw maybe 10, 15 of them. But even at this distance, you can tell that they are pretty large.
Do they look like dragons or?
Roll a perception check as you kind of sneakily peek out again.
Okay, 18.
Yeah, as you kind of peek out again and sort of like regain your calm a little bit and like look out up at the skies, the shapes that are flying about are very similar in shape and size, actually. Well, no, not quite size, but in shape to the dragon you fought, Verdak, the green dragon who was terrorizing Northwood for a while. As well as similar in shape to Mandus, who you encountered in his dragon form of the Dream Realm. But there's something that's amorphous about them, almost as if their shape isn't solid 100%.
Is it kind of like when Mandus uses his like shadow powers?
Yeah.
Kind of, like,
It's when Mandus turns into a dragon, you see that the shadows kind of leak from his scales and things like that. It's almost as if those shadows have fully enveloped the dragon.
Alternate Elians. Have you ever been to Ravenmoor before, Eli?
Just once when I was younger. And he kind of peeks out and he says, "Can't say it looked much like this back then."
It didn't look much like this even when I was here. This is pretty serious.
Yeah, and he sort of catches a glimpse of the dragon-like shapes up in the sky too, as well, and he says, "Are those what I think they are?"
I'm afraid so.
And he like clutches at, he wears a holy symbol of Melora around his neck. He clutches at it and says, "Melora, protect us." And you can see that he kind of goes into a little bit of a prayer there.
You can say that again. I want to look at the ground and see if there's like patrols or if there's just no
Oh,
one
you
around.
like sort of survey
Like
the,
undead?
Yeah.
Or
Um,
kind of, I just want to look at what the.
with your 18, like I said, there's not as much activity as you'd expect walking around, but much of the activity, not all of it, does look organized, as if the figures that are walking around are patrolling. Not all of it. There do seem to be some that are meandering about and like pulling carts and things like that, which would be the more typical thing you'd see of citizens of the town. But quite a few of the people who are about do seem to be patrols of some kind.
Okay. Alright, once I get a good enough look, I'm gonna turn to Eli and say, okay, come on, we shouldn't stay up here.
Yeah, you said that again. Or you can say that again.
Go back to the stairs.
Alright, I want to use my for your work.
Is there like a you know what? Never mind.
Is there like a what?
A long flat piece of stone anywhere that I can use as like a makeshift
Surfboard.
Makeshift surfboard?
Oh boy.
There's nothing like that long, no.
Thank God.
Okay.
Thank
Never mind.
Melora.
I'll just make my way very carefully.
Oh,
down
I see
there.
where you are. There are planks left from. There's like a few crates here that you could pull a plank off of.
No.
That's all I'll say on that.
Yeah, it was like I had a thought, and then Harmony was like, probably not a good idea
I would have to
To make
switch to mischievous music.
to make a
just
big
for that.
ruckus right now. Not the right atmosphere for that, but I was thinking, man, that would be fun. Nope, I'll make my way carefully down the rail.
And Eli follows you. But meanwhile, there was something with Thaddeus going on.
Yeah, I wanted to use the sending to talk to Nadine.
The Ruby Ascending. Excuse
I want to
me.
use the Ruby of Sending to talk to Nadine, preceptor of the Church of the Moon.
Right. Okay. What is your message?
Going to fight a vampire? Is there a counter to its regeneration and escape?
Yes. And the message you get back is.
Yes.
I need to look all this up.
I think those are the two things that Phineas told us about.
I'm just gonna sort of guess at the word count. I'm not gonna count it out. I'm so bad at it.
Just freestyle it.
Unlike many undead, vampires do have some weaknesses. They're averse to holy water, and if you
What did you say
can,
about holy water?
Sorry, I think they're reverse things. Okay.
if you can force them into running water, it will severely debilitate them. Furthermore, the sun is absolutely harmful to them. It will be your greatest tool. If a vampire is escaping in its misty form, you must track it to its place of rest and stake it to the heart. Or stake it in the heart. And that's probably more than 25 words, but whatever.
Sure. She figured out a way to say that, to get the gifts of that across.
And after sort of as you're receiving that message, Dawn comes down the stairs, kind of like treading on the sides so that it doesn't turn into a slide.
Just like that.
And sort of stands next to you, waiting for your communication to be done. And when she senses that that you're sort of done, and you sort of open your eyes again and are present in the moment, she sort of looks you in the eyes and says, "Look, Thaddeus, I thought a lot last night about what happened between us."
We don't have to talk about it.
No, but I think it is important to clarify that. I'd be lying if I said that I don't feel anything. But you of all people must understand the duty that a noble, or much less royalty, has to fulfill.
Of course.
That's all I have to say on that matter.
We have more pressing concerns at the moment anyway, we just say.
Yes, and she kind of looks back up as the rest of the group, I presume, is starting to come down.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, we do. It had to be said. And she sort of gives you a look like she wants to say more, or like it hurts her to say this. There's some meaningful look that she gives you, and then she sort of looks back to the group and says, "Right, what's our play?"
We're coming down. First, I'm being careful.
Yeah, once I get down there, I'll tell them about what I saw outside. So basically, if we don't have a good way to move around stealthily, then there's no point even leaving this tower.
How many were in the sky?
There were about, 13, 14-ish that I could see. There might be more.
Well, do we have any way to indicate where these artifacts are?
No. Not until we know what they are.
I thought we should start searching the temple of Raven.
Yeah, our plan was to go to the Temple of the Raven Queen.
Oh,
I don't know if we even know where that is in the city. I think our main goal needs to be to get within the walls and to find a safe place to kind of hide out. Like the center of
Would
operations.
Mara have a contact with the Sisterhood in Ravenmoor?
Are there rats around?
Right?
Mara might, but you've never been this far to the west,
Yeah.
and I don't think you would know necessarily where to go
Okay.
to find that contact. But certainly, the Undercity Sisterhood could have a branch here.
Here we go, second.
Yes.
That is awesome. I got what we needed.
Which was?
I asked Nadine about how to counter regeneration escape in
Can you
Phoenix.
tell us the name?
Probably so. I think the last time I talked to her was about was it Gavin related stuff? Maybe I didn't tell you about it.
I don't know if you told
No,
us about
I
it.
don't think it.
Okay.
My old teacher at the Antiheroes Academy.
Okay.
She suggests holy water, which we have.
Yes.
She suggests running water, which will be difficult.
I have a few spells.
And she suggests the sun, which, based on what you're telling us, may be not possible.
I have a spell for that too. It's a
Well-
new thing. I'm experimenting, but I can probably figure it out.
Very different than the vampires and the reaches, that's for sure.
Say it then, for one of the most.
That's the plan. What? Like a million pair of shoes and you toss them in the water? What?
That's where one shoe was.
I like to imagine Mara said that, and everyone else is just like,
No.
That's smart.
No, I do you remember when I moved the water under our ship to help us get out of the harbor and rid of people left landing?
oh, yes.
That's sweet.
Yeah, I can do that, but I don't know if that counts as running water or not.
It might.
It's moving water anyway. But yeah, I've been thinking about, since we've decided that like holy magic and stuff was a good idea, I was thinking about maybe I might be able to do something like that when we get there, but it's gonna be a one
Worst case
step.
scenario, that he starts passing the bullet us.
I think I have one with water.
You had one, but we made 8.
If you add the vials that we have to a large body of water, this little body of water becomes therefore holy.
I don't know
I
if it
don't
works.
think that's
It's diluted.
Okay.
So we have one.
Because that looks like
So how many do we?
between the two of us, Donna,
Right.
you had one already.
Phineas made one,
Oh,
so 10.
So I
Okay.
have I have the one that Phineas had because that's where I got it from.
Okay.
I took it from his room.
Right.
So I've had one for a long time. And
that's the one I was thinking. So
Yeah.
we had 10.
You had one.
I've had one since Ravenmoor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So between
So we have 10.
Thaddeus and Dawn, they made 8. Phineas made 1, you had 1, so 10 total.
So
Okay.
2 for each of us and 1 each for Dawn and Ela.
Let me just make a note that they have holy water. So you know.
You like it. For one of them, I'll take one.
Oh yeah. And then
Anyway, so as far as getting us into the city, I might be able to. I don't know.
Are there disguises somewhere in the tower that we could use?
the disguises.
Something to cover up.
Do we have a bunch of those?
Well, we have that
Cloaks?
crown.
I saw that cloak. Yeah, I did.
I mean, I have a cloak too that I have a hood on that I just bought. I just have
Oh, that is
because it's to disguise myself when I'm in a town.
that is a classic warp cloak.
Yeah.
Put a liquid in.
I can also make some people invisible.
That once it
Instead
pierces,
of like dipping the tips.
then we have like a shaft near the shaft, a little reservoir.
Oh, I see
can
what you're
make
saying.
4 people
Probably.
invisible.
Eli speaks up and says, with those things flying in the sky, maybe it's not a great idea, but I can make people fly?
Hold on to that one. I feel like that's going to come in handy, but not necessarily right now.
Right. Yeah, I think so too, but I just thought you should know. And then Dawn, what does she have to offer?
I can make 4 people invisible, and then I can dimension door myself and one other person.
That's probably a lot of stuff right off the bat before we even have
Do we know if dragons or other
Or we can just try to be sneaky.
things out there have like true sight, or they have like?
I don't even know what kind of dragons they are. They look like they're cloaked in darkness. They could be anything.
In terms of
Have
size,
you been to the bottom of the tower? Are there any
We're
tunnels?
in the bottom of the
We're at the bottom tower, yeah.
the first floor. I don't know.
First floor? Or there's
Was there
some
is there a
trees?
basement?
do you want to roll an investigation check?
Sure. Can do.
My hands are in space.
Yeah, I will too actually.
You don't recall. Actually, you guys would remember.
Nazri,
I've
I've
never
followed.
been here.
There
so-
wasn't a basement, but there was a secret, like a narrow tunnel that you could use
Sneak into
to, get into the tower without going through the courtyard.
Yeah.
Which,
Isn't that how we got in?
it was significant because going through the courtyard nearly got Harmony killed.
Yes.
So,
Man, just had to
So
say
we can
the
use the tunnel to get to the other side of the fence
and out into the street.
and out into the street.
Mm-hmm. That's the street.
But once we get to the street, we're gonna have to stick to the shadows. But if we all have cloaks with hoods on them, and we just try to move quickly, we're like, okay.
That is what like to be done. It's not a warp cloak.
Alright.
Yeah, I bought myself a hooded cloak to hide my horns and tail and stuff in big cities. So.
I know you have a book of
Mhm.
How are you?
I have
Do you have the one with the holes in the
I
armpits?
do have one with the whole
I thought-
outfit.
I thought we got you a new one.
I checked. I was like straining my brain trying to remember if I bought something.
How did those armpits get burned?
Wild magic.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
your
I
hands were on fire.
My hands, I put
Yeah.
them in my armpits to hide
Yeah,
them, and I
she
burned
burned the
them.
armpits. I'm like, thanks, Harmony.
It was
Thank
like
you.
really early.
That was when
Yeah.
you were trying to rescue Nazria's weapons.
Yeah. And I was like hiding because my hands were like bright red.
Yeah.
And I
Certainly
burned holes
happened.
in my armpits.
Should I go ahead and dismiss Moonlight Sparkle? Seems like it might be a liability to have a giant flying horse with us.
Yeah,
Moonlight Sparkle kind of tilts. his
I
head
feel
at you.
like Moonlight Sparkle is so beautiful and stands out so much.
Yeah, there's no cloak.
And I don't know how much we're gonna need to be flying around
Interesting
anyway.
point about Moonlight Sparkle. When you look at Moonlight Sparkle, is Moonlight Sparkle a male or a female?
Female.
Female. She looks a little bit less radiant than usual. There's a little bit less sheen to her wings and things like that. But also, when you look beyond Moonlight Sparkle at the shadow is that of a skeletal horse with bat-like wings. That just kind of plays across the wall in a large, flickering motion. Very eerie.
Unless, that's going to message to for me rather than say it out loud. She could be a good distraction.
She could look like a normal
So-
horse if you could just make her wings invisible.
Ethan,
I can't just
I don't
make her
have
wings.
another cloak, but on my inventory, I do see leather armor with magic illusion
Yeah.
on it.
That was
You're very high
Vanessa's
expectations.
side.
Vanessa's. Oh yeah, it's right next to the bone knuckles. Did we ever look at that armor?
Yeah, you determined that it can basically changed your. While it is armor, it can look as if it is any other type of clothing. So like you could be wearing this full armor and it make it look like a beautiful ball dress.
That's cool.
Yeah. So like when you first fought Vanessa in Thomas Cranston's hall, she was wearing that, and it looked like she was wearing a dress. But you guys were having a lot more trouble hitting her than you'd think.
Does that require attunement?
No, but it won't fit Hunter.
But it'll fit Mara.
Would fit Mara, okay. Yep.
Oh, okay. Just want to get that there.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, jeez. Okay, we're gonna cross this off right away. Gosh.
Give it to her.
Yeah. Hey, Mara. Looking through my stuff.
You're so worst at that. He just hoards it all and you forget what
Well,
he has.
I
You could
just
be
have
helping
the
us
bag.
out, man. What else do you have in there?
I don't know what I'm looking at.
He always
I don't
gets
do inventory
involved in the
a while. I think you ought to have this. And we'll give you this leather armor, and I'll explain what it does.
Okay.
And then you might actually want this too. And I'll give you the Eldraven Reach's short bow. I don't think you use short bows. I already have mine. So maybe you should hold that too.
Thanks, Hunter.
You're welcome. But yeah, I don't seem to have, except for
I'm
this
just gonna hold
one.
my hand out.
Oh,
You're
do you
giving
want?
out gifts?
Do you want more holes in this one, Harmony? I'll pull the doubles, whatever it was, the cloak out. Yeah. Oh yeah, I already have your here.
I still don't know how that happens.
Are Eli and Dawn good for cloaks?
Sorry, what was your question?
Are Eli and Dawn good for cloaks?
Dawn kind of has been standing at the back of this conversation in her radiant plate armor,
Do we not have any
with
more
a heavy
items in
shield
the
strapped
books?
across her
I
back,
thought we grabbed a couple of Knights of the World books.
sort of
We don't
looking
have
at the
any.
rest of you,
I have one.
donning your disguises,
And plus
and
the
waiting for the
bread
right moment
for
to
the other
say
cloak
that she
we
can't
have.
really
I
disguise
Did we
herself.
Yeah,
steal
that's
one
right.
when we were looking for a baby?
Yes.
Remember?
That wasn't a Knights of the World cloak though, but what
But
was
that was
it?
a uniform.
It was a uniform.
It was a uniform, not a cloak.
Melissa, if Mara is wearing this armor, it is studded leather armor, which would give you a +1 to your AC.
Nice!
Oh, nice.
Your AC is double cloak to 16.
Okay, awesome.
That's gonna help. You're so awesome.
If only my memory was more
He's
awesome.
only been holding that for the past 20
Forever.
episodes.
I
Oh my
know.
gosh. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad.
I suppose we could look in the tower to see if anyone needs stuff anything behind. Any
I don't know.
There's
what
anything
it
else
is,
you have
but- Oh,
Oh my gosh.
in the way of cloaks, yeah.
What's
Yeah, I
what's
mean,
Eli
it's just
got?
all this stuff I don't know very often.
Eli has general travel wear. He could probably pull a hood over, and that's going to be as disguised as anyone else in this room. It's hard to hide his blue skin, though.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
I mean, I've got hate skin, so
Oh,
you know, so that's gonna be fine. It's just a matter of being nondescript. We can walk through the
So we're gonna come out through on the other side, right?
on the other side of the fence. In the streets.
I'm thinking of having Moonlight Sparkle with us, and once we emerge, I'm going to send her into the sky to draw attention.
Moonlight Sparkle unfortunately won't make it through the tunnel because a medium creature has to squeeze. So
I think as much as that's a good plan for a distraction, don't sacrifice your mount.
I would dismiss it before you do that.
I know, but I feel like we should try to go and then see if we need a distraction. Because I can always cast an illusion and make a sound somewhere.
Then I'll leave you here.
We could look for like sewers. We have to.
Well, how
It's
well
a
do we
map.
remember the back roads that Tal took us through?
pretty well. So like
Right? So I
between
feel like,
here and First Light Orphanage, you could get there on the back roads really quickly, really easily.
Right.
Also, you could make it to the.
Ooh, the safe house.
That might not be so safe.
Well, the safe house was not part of the orphanage. It was
I know.
where, right?
Yeah, it was
Maybe
just a
we should
separate property in the city that
Scout
Manus
that
owned.
out first.
Yeah.
Alright, sounds like a good.
We could check.
It's worth checking out because maybe it's still safe. You never know.
Alright, let's go.
Are we all going, or are we just having one person, or are we
I think we should stay together.
We should stick
Okay.
together.
just checking?
I don't think it's safe anywhere really.
Yeah, Dawn kind of looks at the group and says, and sort of like steps forward, clanging loudly in her plate armor, and goes, "I'm not going to be very sneaky, but I'll try my best."
And I'll stand next to her, like, clank, clank. Yep. I understand.
So you guys stay in the back of the group.
That makes sense.
And then first, and then I'm gonna make a bunch of good berries. Everyone be like, I'm gonna hand these out first.
Oh yeah, good berries for everybody.
Hand out. We have 10, and then we have how many people?
People have 6.
Six. So I'll just give each of the girls 2, and then I'll give Thaddeus 2. I'll take 1. I think it's 6. That's 10 now. No, I did something wrong.
2, 4.
No, that's right, because then Eli. Yep.
7.
Dawn and Eli, when you offer it to them, both refuse. For the same reason, which is that they have plenty of healing spells.
Okay.
So that's you trying to help you.
Well, I think it's more so that you have it on you in case we have to pick you up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eli will take 1 then,
Okay.
but Dawn still sort of staunchly refuses.
That's fine. For a more lustrous and
Alright,
shiny one.
I will lead the way since
Which color?
between me and Hunter, we're the only ones that know this house.
Yeah, hang on, I'm just counting.
Hunter and Dawn will pick up the rear since they're the loud ones.
So 2 for everybody then, if Eli's having 1, let's take 2 then.
Okay.
That's alright, yeah. That looks easy for me.
Mara's gonna give Hunter the Dibblefoot rope as a present for her.
Aww.
Oh,
For
the
the-
rope that can
for the-
disassemble and
I
adjust its
love
length.
it.
And it's got a little button that comes with it. You can close it.
Have you even used that at all?
Nope.
Since you've done it.
But I'll find a use for it, just
sounds
like the
it sounds
Sovereign
something
Blue.
you like.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for you to like get into the final boss fight with like Orin and Orochi
I
over in the
know.
Elderly Reaches and like use Sovereign Blue.
That's
to
what I
destroy
want
them.
so bad, you have no idea.
Like Orochi, you're not getting out of here anymore. I'm Sovereign Blueing you in this place.
I'm gonna go up to Thaddeus.
Oh my god.
And I'm gonna take the tiara.
Uh-huh.
And I'm gonna give it to him and say, this will help you be stealthier. Just put it on. It'll help you be stealthy.
You told me this was trapped. That is said that you put it out.
No, I didn't.
As
did.
you did actually.
You did. It's gonna be a really funny joke. Don't tell Hunter. You told me that.
As Thaddeus puts it on, Thaddeus, you don't really feel anything. But the rest of you watch as Thaddeus's mouth contorts downward into a frown. This is the biggest frown you've ever seen.
Oh,
I
Like,
feel
even
this?
for Thaddeus. I mean,
Okay.
you can sort of feel
It's
like
kind of-
your face
yeah.
change a little bit, but it's like,
I think that this is like to me this is gonna be the face I was gonna make anyway.
yeah.
it's like,
I
it's like
reach up and
something,
just take it off, put it back in my bag. That was unpleasant.
So the way it works is it alternates between smiles and frowns, and I'm going to forget, so try and remember which one was last,
Okay, alright.
in case it matters at some point,
In case it,
which it probably won't.
could always just make it random and we don't remember.
That's true.
Just roll it.
I'm not that smart.
Flip a coin.
And D4.
Okay.
Alright. Are we ready?
As ready as we're gonna be. So, what's our
Alright.
plan if we get overwhelmed by?
Well, I'll try to keep an eye out for things, and if I need to, I can make a distraction using minor illusion to draw them away so that we can sneak by. I can make a distraction like. Where did my minor illusion go? That's not my
I
minor.
know, I was looking at how those fit.
I think I gave it to you for one of your characters and you never gave it back. Jerk. Anyway, maybe, I don't know. But I can make an illusion pretty far away.
Okay.
That's gonna become relevant soon.
It's probably good enough for now.
It might still be in my box. Okay. So I will lead the way out the tunnel.
Okay. Everyone should please now make a stealth check.
Very sure I make these a disadvantage.
I do too. Ooh, mine's very disadvantageous. Oh!
At
Not as
advantage.
bad as you though.
At advantage or just
No.
At advantage for Mara because of your boots.
Oh, lucky. So lucky.
I know.
Oh, that's not. I mean, it's not good, but it's not bad.
Alright. Well, even a zombie could see
I
me
should have
coming,
used
that's
back.
for sure.
Sorry.
Good roll.
Oh,
did
you
Hunter
found
roll?
it.
You got a 7.
Okay.
Is this yours or
I
mine?
got 16.
That's the question. Is this part of your set or keep it?
Waiting for harmony. And
14.
50.
Wow, with disadvantage? That's so good.
Okay.
And a 0 in stealth.
Wow, that's really good.
Zach, could you also make one for your tiger?
Yes! He's gonna do way better than mine. Let me find his stat card. Oh my god. I'll find him eventually.
Leave her there for now.
Right here.
So funny. You would just sit in someone's lap and just look up at them like.
No, that's Tremacer.
This is an important role because it's a tiebreaker in this group
Oh
stealth
God!
check.
Zach!
I'm trying. I'm sorry. It was right here.
Dawn rolled an 8, Eli rolled a 9.
Oh no.
Well, I don't know if he gets advantage or not.
He doesn't, but like, he's
Just
got a pretty good
looking for
dexterity, I
tiger?
think. So
Yeah, I am.
Tiger stats?
Or Panther, rather.
Wait, what?
He's a
That's where we
stats.
restat the Panther.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, I can just make a roll and then. Oh wow, that's not super great.
Oh no. Oh no.
It's a 9 plus something.
okay.
Oh here it is. Sorry. Stealth
Plus
plus
six.
12.
Plus
Plus
So
12.
21.
Holy shit.
Okay. The tiger kind of stalks up to the front of the group and is padding next to Harmony almost silently. Dawn and Eli, well, Dawn is kind of clanking away in the back. Eli is up next to Harmony, and basically every time you turn a corner and there's a new ominous shadow, like a lamppost will be standing in the road, like along the road, and its shadow will sort of stretch outward, almost like personified hands reaching towards the group, since they're kind of like jagged and wicked-looking shadows. And he'll kind of like leap and almost like have to stifle a scream. Fortunately, though, the stealthier among you are able to keep the group quiet when you're wending your way through the back roads, and Eli is about to step into the main road, and you see, just in time, Harmony, you see that a group, one of those organized patrols, is coming down that main road. And you manage to pull Eli back into the alleyway just in time, into the shadows, as the patrol walks by. And you see that it is composed of several figures. There are 2 human shaped creatures in that they have human legs, human arms, but the top half of their body that protrudes from their cloaks seems to be the heads of human-sized cobras, and they have like their snake-like tongues flickering out. 2 of the creatures that are accompanying them seem to be almost like snakes with like girth wide enough that it looks like they could probably like swallow a human whole. And their snake-like bodies culminate in sort of upright standing cobra-headed figures, but they do have like human-like scaly arms. And then the last group of creatures that sort of accompany this monstrous retinue are these hunched lizard-like folks who, with long scaly arms that kind of drag in the dirt along as they walk. And they also have these snake-like tongues that kind of flick out and taste the air. And as you look at these hunched figures, you can't help but think that there's just something that's like vaguely pathetic about them. It's a weird feeling to place, but they're almost pitiful in a way. And they're the ones that are kind of like looking from side to side.
Do they
watching
have
the
clothes similar to that of like the Commonwealth of Ravenmoor? Like they were like transformed or something?
The smaller hunched lizard creatures aren't wearing any clothes at all.
Okay.
The upright standing snake creatures, not the ones with like fully snake-like tails, but like the ones that have human appendages with snake heads, do seem to be wearing clothes, but they are fine. If anything, they would be like noble quality clothes.
I see.
And this retinue of, is retinue a word? Am I
Yeah.
making that up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This entourage of people pass by your alleyway, And for a second, you think that one of the hunched figures has caught a glimpse of you, and it kind of flicks its tongue in your direction, but then continues onward along the path. And when they're safely out of the way, you dash across the main street into another back alleyway, and you wend your way past where First Light Orphanage was, and that's where you are greeted by perhaps one of the most disturbing sight you've seen since your arrival in Ravenmoor. Where First Light Orphanage stood, over the portal to the Shadowfell, you can see a vast construction site has grown up. The buildings around it have been razed completely to the ground, and massive hunks of brick have been dragged into this area. And you can see that there are humans working on building these bricks into what looks like, it's already been built quite a bit, a massive stone pyramid-like structure that stretches towards the sky. And you can see that there's more of these. There's a absolutely massive amount of serpent-like creatures. Some of them humanoid in shape, like the ones you saw with the arms and limbs, but then the serpent head. Some of them more fully snake-like, and then a whole mess of these like lizard-like creatures with the dragging arms. And they all seem to be watching and supervising humans who are the citizens of Ravenmoor who are being forced to build this structure. And as you sort of watch this scene, even repeatedly throughout maybe like 5 minutes, you see several of them just whipped for not working fast enough, not working hard enough, at least as the serpent masters have deemed it.
Do I recognize any of them?
Roll a perception check.
I'm gonna get kind of toward the middle of the group while it's happening.
Towards where?
Toward the middle of the group,
Okay, yeah,
so that my aura of courage protects
that's a
you.
good idea.
14.
Got a 20.
14 to 20. You see both of your eyes alight on two different things. Hunter, you see that there is a human man who doesn't seem to be involved in physical labor, but he is surrounded by more of the serpent-like Yuan-Ti, and he seems to be conversing with them while holding what looks to be blueprints of some kind. And you recognize the muscular arms and the torso, and also blonde curly mustache, single curly Q hair of Barton, who seems to be in charge of seems to have managed to find an elevated position due to his ability to engineer things.
Across the realm, Nazria's heart aflutter.
Yeah, but you can see that even he looks a little bit uneasy. He's not quite as well shaven as he would have been, and his eyes kind of dart from side to side as he's having this conversation. But he's not involved in any of the hard physical labor. Harmony, your eyes alight on something else. Where you see the rubble of First Light Orphanage, some of it is still around. The bricks that made up the building itself, and some of the iron fence is still there as well. You see that there is has been like a large piece of wood stuck into the ground, and there is also like a cross branch that goes across it. It's just these two planks of wood that form this cross, and there are bodies hanging from nooses in the cross branch, and in the very center, hanging from the center noose, you can see the decaying body of Tab.
Oh wow, dang. I wonder if he still has that ring and stuff.
I think Harmony would just stop walking when she sees that. And just stand there.
Eli kind of surveys the two of you, surveying this, and says, "This is really bad. I had no idea that it was going to be this horrible." And as you survey this scene, you see sort of standing from the pinnacle of the pyramid, though it's unfinished, sort of the highest point at this point, there is a figure whose presence commands attention. And sort of all your eyes are drawn to this figure. A woman in like a golden breastplate of armor, dark skin with what you can see even from here is, it looks like long black hair at first, but then the hair seems to move as if on its own or as if it's being blown in the wind. And it's not long before you realize that her hair is in fact serpents, which are coiling around her neck and the top of her chest. And she is sort of observing the construction of this pyramid and shouting orders every now and again. And you can see that she wears kind of a veil on her face, so you can't really see her face. It's obscured. But as you realize who she must be and what she must be, your eyes are also drawn to what you initially thought were statuary that were supposed to decorate this area, because they've been arranged in sort of a decorative formation. But you can see that now that you get a good look, they are actually the petrified bodies of citizens of Ravenmoor all throughout this area. And she's just seems, you can't really hear what she's shouting, but you can tell that even from here she's shouting orders to the UNT who are building this, who are commanding the construction of this pyramid. And basically every time she shouts, a group of UNT scatters to do whatever it is she asks. It's immediate.
Sorry, we have to go. But I'm gonna raise them all to the ground. I just run
Okay.
quietly.
You're going for the safe house area?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a little bit north of here. And you arrive there without any incident, having to once or twice more keep yourselves back into alleyways while these patrols pass by. But you find your way to the safe house, and you locate the key where Amanda's had it hidden, and open up the door. And the room itself, there's still all the beds that the orphans used when their orphanage had been burned down. But it is quiet, and there's a thin layer of dust on everything. You can still see the bed where Lady Cranston died is still in here.
Alright, this is the start.
I'm gonna walk in and I'm just gonna kick the closest bed I can find really
Yeah, it
hard.
goes, falls over.
And I'm gonna go off into the corner. Does this place have multiple rooms or was it just the one
It's
room?
one room, one big room.
I'm gonna go off to the corner. I'm gonna grab pillows off the beds and just throw them as I walk.
Did you crit? Just like that one.
It's not a critical pillow this time.
I'm just throwing
The
them
one
off the
time.
beds. Angry.
We're bad. I just like
Hunter, do you remember?
Hmm?
How well did you know this town? I've been here once or twice, but I've never visited the region.
we were here for one long stay for 3 or 4 weeks, I think, or more than that.
Yeah, a little over a month, I think.
Yeah.
Do you remember where the temple was?
I don't know if we ever visited the temple.
Um,
We would probably know based off process of elimination.
Yeah,
Where
I was
it
about to
most
say,
likely is.
based off process of elimination, you spent most of your time in the southeastern quarter of town.
Nobles area.
You also did venture into the northeastern when you were investigating the dinosaur that was stealing cattle. And you also ventured into the northwestern quarter, which is the noble quarter,
Yeah.
when you were raising hell in Thomas Cranston's.
And I don't remember
State.
seeing anything temple district wise or anything.
Not in any of those areas, no.
So I would guess it'd be southwest then.
And we are where?
Southeast. Okay? Or
Mhm.
yeah.
Shit, I don't want to go with that.
I can probably sketch out a map.
Take a look at.
Dawn speaks up and says,
Dawn should know quite a bit. She was here for a while too.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned that.
Yeah, I was about to say, they didn't have a temple to my god here, so I didn't really go seeking any place of worship, but there is a significant, a significant looking cathedral in, like you said, the southwestern quarter of the city.
Oh wait, would
And if the city is as dedicated to the Raven Queen as you say, I guess I'd wager that's it.
Yeah.
I was trying to think
Good
if,
guess.
if Thaddeus would know that, but I don't think Thaddeus knew that Ignacio was there. So yeah, he probably wouldn't know what it was.
Thaddeus is probably the only person in the world right now. Did you share that exactly with these people?
Yeah, I told him this.
So Thaddeus is probably the only person in the world right now who knows that information.
I grab a pillow and go to the corner of the room and sit in a fetal position with the pillow to my face.
Just
Eli kind of looks to the rest of you and like looks at Harmony.
and then I'll start walking over to me too.
Eli comes close, but like he doesn't go directly up to you. He kind of sits on a bed nearby and sort of waits to see if there's a good opportunity for him to join the conversation.
Hunter will pick up Harmony, like put her on a bed next to Eli, and then kind of like sit down to like meet eye level and be like, because did I see Tal's body or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you had the 20. So
Okay.
you
So
would have seen it, but you saw the other things sort of first.
sure. Be like, things weren't the way that we planned them to be.
Eli kind of looks at you a little bit timidly as if he's not quite sure what to say, and he says, I assume you saw someone there who you know?
She's just sobbing. That's all you hear.
Where's the tiara right now?
In my bed.
It's like reach into her bag and like the tiara.
Yeah, your mouth contorts into the smile.
Okay, Harmony.
Eli just whispers to Hunter, not the time, and takes it off of your head. Not the moment. Hold
No,
on to this.
she's just got her face completely buried in the pillow. She's not looking up. She's just
Okay.
Look, Harmony, we're here, and I've seen what this group can do. We will do whatever we can to get revenge, to free those people. It's not lost yet.
Yeah, there are still people yet to be saved, so we should act.
It's what we came
quickly.
here to do.
Yeah.
Alright, I think you're going to be important when we get to the temple. Whatever we're looking for is going to be hidden, and we're good at finding hidden things.
Not in Helios Tower.
Is reliable. Now.
Mara's learned from her mistakes.
Yeah.
Be relied on now.
You might not have much time, but if we're pursued there, we'll need you to focus on finding it.
Okay. Between me and my rat, we'll be prepared.
Oh yeah.
Your rat is your house.
Yeah, your rat is just radiating hunger right now. You can hear it in your brain. It's like, hungry, 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 hungry. Feed, please, feed.
Okay, I'm
Hungry.
gonna take him out, put him in his cage and feed him. Water him.
In his new house.
And you're gonna water him? Is that what you said?
Give him water him. You know, like you water a horse.
Nom,
Is that weird?
It's not weird.
I don't think it sounds.
You guys are just
I think it literally, yeah.
Not with
Sorry.
running water though.
Mara pulls
Waiting
out
for her
the
to
watering
mix
can.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. Your brain will go nice and strong.
You guys are so weird.
It's a common phrase.
Yeah.
Sure.
But you watered your dogs.
Not like that.
When they need a bath, maybe.
Okay. Just be more carefully and properly.
Eli continues after sort of a long pause and Harmony still continuing to sob. He says, look, Harmony, earlier this morning we found my teacher for many years dead. And based on the way we found him, I can only presume it was these people who did it.
We also do save Mantis.
And you saw what that did to me. It's okay to... I think it's okay to feel hurt and sick, and I think it's okay to want revenge. At least I hope it is, because I really do.
It is. Vengeance is an open call.
See? That's what we're here for. But we have to put on a bold face until it's over. Right?
You see her head fall.
When I was... He kind of like leans into a whisper so that only you can hear this. When I was puking this morning, it was you who told me that everything was going to be okay. And now I'm telling you it's going to be okay. I don't know who you saw over there that you knew, but we're going to free them.
We're gonna save this town and we're gonna destroy that vampire.
That's right. That's what we're here for.
But it's not gonna bring back those people that we've lost. I just need a minute.
That's understandable. And he kind of like looks a little confused for a second, and then he says, "Do you want me to go over there?" Then he just kind of stays quiet,
Hermes' tail like touches his leg just a little bit.
clenches a little bit, but then relaxes.
Just like the know you're there.
I'll walk back to the group. I think what we gotta do is we should use the message spell to try and talk to Bart, who was one of the workers over there, get some information about the town.
How,
While we're here.
how can we free him?
Well, we should talk to him through that spell. Yeah. See what's going on.
Tomorrow? Do you think you can do it?
Or, well, I mean, we have
Stealthy.
magic. So, right, we could use the
Yeah.
the same thing went to the earrings, the same thing this does. Except,
Doesn't it ever have a break? Can't we like
I mean, we can talk to him
follow
anytime.
him or
right?
meet him?
I don't know if we should meet him in person. That's way more
Too
dangerous, I
risky.
think. So, I mean, while we're in the vicinity, right? Because soon we're going to the other side of town.
Do the earrings only work with people who are also have the earrings?
Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's that one.
But we have this spell, right? Yeah, so. I think we
Harmony
should do
does.
that. Yeah. Unless,
Harmony is not on this.
well, what's the range on it?
120 feet.
Unless.
Yeah. I'm looking at it wrong.
So I can't use the ruby. Okay.
I will use that one today.
Okay.
If that's a possibility, I mean, that would be a pretty good way to get a snapshot of what's going on. Get some more detail.
Unless she can guide us, unless she can give us accurate directions that we can follow to the town. I don't know how she uses this.
I mean, he's been here.
I wonder if we can get inside the pyramid.
We'll get there eventually.
Harmony and Hunter would know that that pyramid is being built over where First Light Orphanage was, so that it is being built over the crossing to the Shadowfell. So presumably, if you want to get to the vampire, if he's still in the Shadowfell, that's where you have to go.
When we came out of the Shadowfell inside the keep, was that another entrance, or was that just a self-made entrance?
That was Manda's casting plane shift.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know there. I wasn't sure if there's like another Mario pipe in the Shadowfell. That's the sound I made when we first entered. Yep. Exactly. So, unless we have any other spells that would work, but yeah, I think we should maybe call up Barton since he's in the best position to talk to us. If we can.
If you can get me within 60 feet of him, I could dominate him. No, I think we should stay away from her. That's the Medusa.
Let's go with the message man for now. You don't have to get too close with them.
But I don't know if we can trust him. If he's working with them. If it's purely out of self-preservation.
Well, if not him, is there anyone else you were friends with in town you can try and see if there's somebody who wouldn't have been recruited to do something?
Unless you know how to speak with the dead.
And
Yeah.
that is kind of looks at Dom.
Let me check Dawn's spells.
Is there a spell called Speak with Dead?
Yeah.
There is.
Oh, well.
Dawn says, look, there's a prayer that I could use to speak with someone who's dead, but I have to pray about it tonight. I don't have it prepared.
Don't bother. There are a lot of people that are still alive that we could talk to. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone that we know. It just has to be someone that's not working or that can be easily led away from the group. Barton was busy. He's a very prominent target. We need to take someone who wouldn't be missed.
People you can think of who you still remember from the city and don't know their whereabouts at the moment. Off the top of my head, I can think of Alan. What was her name?
The guard person?
Yeah, Erin. Erin's one.
The bread salesman lady?
Yeah, I think her name was Laura.
Oh, the bread salesman?
And
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
Crazy-
you know that she went on to
crazy
become a
man.
member of the council that replaced the Cranstons.
Right.
Yeah, the crazy man from the park.
Yeah.
Stuart, the cattle herder.
Yeah.
I don't know that person. I wasn't with you for that.
That's all the people I can think of.
Yeah. Aren't really super
Aaron.
acquainted.
Didn't Aaron get fired or something?
Yeah, you know she got demoted because of you.
A partner.
He was
Like
like,
apprentice?
he was a,
No.
he was a lots.
Yeah, he had a
Okay.
pimply young apprentice,
Yeah,
but
the Laura, the bread salesman, or who was the first one you said?
Alan,
Alan.
the orphan.
Alan the orphan. I could spry on Alan and see where he is. We could try to find him. I would hope that he got out with the rest of the orphans. But,
I still think messaging Bart would be a good avenue to take.
and say what? He's working with them right
Probably
now.
not under his own belt.
Still, like, even if he starts acting suspicious, like he's getting a message from a ghost or something, they're gonna recognize something that.
That's what I'm saying. Wait for him to take a break. He's gotta have a break.
Didn't look like that giving people breaks.
Maybe he can multitask. I don't know. I feel like anyone's going to be in the same, position if they get a message randomly.
If it's someone we know that recognizes my place, it won't be that much of a problem. I don't know if I knew Barton. I maybe met him once.
I don't know if he has to know you.
Yeah, but if he knows me, he won't react.
Tell him
Tell him,
there's someone fighting to freedom about you.
yeah,
But you need important information.
You still have to get me 120 feet within him.
Yeah, 120 feet away from where he was would be like standing next to the hanging tree that was constructed. So you'd have to get pretty close up there.
Is there water around? Body of water around?
And that
There
Medusa
is
right
a small creek that runs through the park. You guys would know about that.
The manor clothes,
I
and
would-
nobody would see us.
I would rather stay away from that area if we can.
Then let's find this out.
let's do what?
Let's find this out.
Yeah, if that's what we want to do, then scrying Alan.
Or I can scry on Laura. She's in
Your
the
choice.
council.
Your choice.
She could be dead. We don't know.
Yeah, what do you think they'd do to members of the council if they did this to a legendary
My guess is that Alan is not in this town,
Yeah, I would hope that he's not in the town.
and Laura probably is, but she might be with the rest of them.
The other option is that we just go to the district.
We
Try
could do
to
that
find
too.
out something we see.
At this point, if we don't really have a way to communicate with the people, then leaving and acting now would be better.
Yeah.
Eli says, if there's any allies that we can find within the city, I think that we should try to find them. And if we can't find them, then we've got a pretty good lead on where this temple might be, so we might as well go check that out. That's what I'd suggest.
Allies would know whether Bart is trustworthy or not. Or if he's turned.
The more information we have, the better. But if we can't get more information, then we have no choice. We'll just act on our own.
This is really YouTube. I don't know anything about this town. I mean, I've been here before, but not recently.
Yeah.
Right, I don't know Laura that well. Erin hates me. Although I feel like she would be a good ally if she was the captain of the guard.
You can't channel message through somebody, right? Like, I couldn't talk to somebody.
No.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. That was
What's
funny.
Alan's just a kid, so as much as I want to find him, I don't know how much love he can.
Yeah.
He was, other than Tal, he was one of the older orphans, though. So, with
So you
Tal's
might be-
fate in mind, Alan was probably one of those who was leading the orphans.
Right.
So
Probably a
wherever
pretty good
wherever he
contact.
is, probably the rest of them.
Well, if you contact Alan, you'll find out if there's still friends or staying
That's
maybe
true.
down
And
there.
they
feel
have
a
pretty
little
good
bit.
information network, didn't they?
They
So
My vote is Alan, and then after that would probably be Laura, because I'm gonna guess that.
I can only scry once today, so
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Alan. My
Okay.
vote. Yes, me.
I'm gonna get out my crystal ball and I'll sit cross-legged on the bed.
Okay.
Throw the pillow down that's like soaking wet, my tears. Throw it on the floor. Get my
And
crystal
the
ball.
DC for the
Avengers.
ball is 17.
Yes. I don't know if I have anything that belongs to Alan.
I don't know that you do,
Hmm.
but you're familiar with him, which gives him a -5.
I mean, I saved his life once.
So you focus your attention into the crystal ball. The rest of you watch as Harmony takes a couple minutes to do this. And then as her focus is drawn in, there's like a slight breath intake as Harmony, your vision shoots up above the sky as you're familiar with. And you kind of get an overhead view of Ravenmoor before it is drawn rapidly back down towards the ground at a breakneck pace. And when your vision clears again after that like rapid blurring of color, you are in dark tunnels, and you can hear kind of like the slow trickle of water. And as you glimpse, you sort of look around in this area because you can get a little bit of a 360 of the scrying orb. You see that there are you're in sort of this worked brick tunnel system of sorts, which is grimy and dirty. You can tell that the trickling running water is probably sewage of some kind, but you can see that off to the side there is what looks like an encampment of people. There's makeshift tents set up, just all in darkness, but you can see people, all of them seemingly their spirits downtrodden and broken, but among them are several orphans who you recognize, and those orphans seem to be going around and passing out bread and things to all of the people who are gathered down here. And among them you see Alan. He's kind of like, he's got this crate of bread that he's handing out loaves to the orphans to go distribute to these people. Yeah, and you just watch as he then, after he's done with that, begins to distribute out canteens of what looks like fresh water of some kind. And yeah, you watch that for a few minutes, and then the vision pulls back out.
Do you get any bearing on, like, how far can you, like, kind of unmagnify the view and get an idea of where you are? in the world?
Not really at all.
Not really at all. So you get just a brief. Okay, I see.
I mean, really showing me Ravenmoor, like that was just flavor too.
Mm.
Yeah, this isn't like, oh, where's Simple? That's the irrelevant.
Yeah, and it's like a rush. Like you can
Yeah,
barely
yeah.
see anything.
Okay.
Technically, that's not even in the spell.
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
Mark did that in High Rollers once, and I was like, ooh, I love it.
Yeah,
no, it's Matt. in Critical Role.
Nice.
potentially both of them.
Okay.
They're in the sewers. There's a bunch
Oh.
of survivors with them.
We should go there.
That was strangely enough going to be my next suggestion anyway. Well, that's where they were. So.
The two of you know the best way to the sewers from here?
I've never traveled in there.
Follow Pinky. You never traveled, but yeah, we
Are there
could
any
follow her
rats?
ass. I'm sure it's not hard to find.
Please let there be
Manhole
rats.
cover somewhere, or is this more of a find a doorway that leads to the sewer kind of thing?
Do we recall seeing like sewer
Um,
covers or anything?
No, most of the streets are kind of like compact dirt and things like that.
Did we
Um,
see a grate when we left Potix's place?
You came out from Potix's little workshop area into a graveyard,
Yeah.
but that was also outside the city.
Right on our way in. Didn't see anything. Okay. For some reason I thought we saw something.
How good is your tiger's sense of smell?
Very good.
Maybe your tiger could sniff it out for
We
us.
can certainly try that. That or maybe Mara can help us.
Maybe we could work together.
Maybe we can work together. Yeah.
Or maybe Harmony can turn one of us into a bird. Fly around looking to see if there's an entrance to it.
Yeah, bird,
Just
or maybe
sewer.
something like a wolf that has
A sense of smell.
sense of smell.
Something that would stand
Well,
out.
we've already got the tiger.
Yeah, I think based on what we have here, we should probably be okay.
But would the tiger draw attention?
Very
That one
sneaky.
is
Very,
by
very
itself.
stealth. I mean,
I can
I
hardly
watched that
notice this.
tiger.
It's
All the way
sneakier
in.
than Dawn.
Yeah,
No
it's
offense.
sneakier than.
Yeah, Dawn kind of
All
like
of
looks like she's about to object, but then shrugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Alright.
Flanks the armor.
Dawn is at disadvantage with -1, so
She gets
Interesting. Go to the rest
With
of
the first stealth?
Yep.
Oh yeah, mine's awful. I think better than his though. Mine's at +2. Yeah, +2
Mine's
at
also
disadvantage.
at 0.
Yeah.
So
I've got a
I'm
plus
not
two.
really one to talk here.
Yeah, we're not the stealthiest group.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus 4.
Okay, well yeah, we can try the smelling and we can try what do you think? How would you do it? Got more rats? Pinky's
Pinky
rats?
seems full at this moment, and you can just kind of get kind of like a sleepy feeling from him at this point in time.
We know where that big temple is, right? In the city.
We know what you call it.
Yeah,
I mean, we could head that direction and keep an eye out for the sewer off the way.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay,
And let's make a wide berth around that zip line.
sure.
Then if you're going back out into the city, I need fresh stealth checks.
Oh,
from all
God.
of you.
No, I'm
Oh,
gonna
I did so much better.
Vax this
I
time.
didn't do that.
As in, I did a little bit
Come
better.
on, Vax, give me that 43. Hey, not bad. 17.
Okay,
14.
10.
okay. 12. And the tiger?
Oh yeah, the tiger. Oh, 17.
17.
Wait, with plus 12?
Yeah, I rolled
Oh
5.
my god.
Okay. You begin to make your way out into the city, keeping to back roads again as best as you can. And you get quite a ways through the city, but you're kind of slowed down because you have to keep waiting for these patrols to cross the
Can we
streets
also-
and things like that.
Look for the sewer openings and stuff.
Right. So one of you can make a perception check at advantage.
So should he do on with the smell?
Right.
Yeah,
Can
that's
tell?
makes no sense.
So I got a 30.
30. Okay.
Yes.
18 plus 12.
Yeah. Your tiger, after you convey sort of, after a little bit of work, what you're looking for,
Allosaurus, but like this.
yeah, the tiger puts its nose to the ground and
No,
begins
I've
to,
done it before.
sniff your way through the town. And it leads you close to the like the central area of the town, and you get to a point where you are near a main road that is about to go into this like central bazaar. When your tiger is sort of poking its head out of the alleyway a little bit, and it's sort of like pointing across the road, and you can see that there is a like a structure with like a barred door that seems to be locked, and it's across the road from you. But it's at that point that you hear a roaring sound from the sky, and you look up in time to see one of those shadowy dragons swooping around, maybe like 100 feet above the ground, and it looks like it was flying one direction, but then it spotted you and then is turning back around and is coming back towards you, and then you look and you see one or two other ones beginning to make a similar turn. And I need everyone to make an initiative roll.
Oh no. Did he find the sewer entrance though?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Because maybe we just have to run through it.
Maybe. Oh. Alright.
Initiative.
First initiative in a long time.
I know.
I wasn't sure if we were going to have any initiative today. We'll see though.
We made sure to roll 2 stealth checks today, so
Two.
with 3 people at disadvantage. And no one else passing out a trace or anything.
You're the ranger. That's your job.
I'm level 2 stealth yet. Or else I totally would. Yeah. Trust me.
You're gonna have to give me a second while I roll this something.
Princess. Okay. Oh, I need a card for what's his butt? Biako.
Did you name him Yaku?
I just left it. I haven't renamed him yet.
Where's Hunter's card?
Oh yeah, let me get that right. That's oh, is that right?
Yeah, my notes just still says Hunter's Tiger.
So that is mine. And
Yeah,
his
Ethan might actually have to come and get
is
playing Hunter.
perception.
Do you need a card?
I do. I'll find his initiative eventually on this sheet. Armor class, proficiency, performance, saving throws.
You have 3.
Okay, I need to draw a bit of a map, so you're going to have to collect those cards for me if you wouldn't mind.
We've got them collected. It's just like for when. Do you have a spare note card? I do.
If you could get it from Melissa, that'd be great.
Okay.
We'll just keep this map simple.
Pictures I have in here. I got an 11.
Okay, so
So-
toward the bottom. Just it. Now you come out.
Thinks it's a snack.
It's not a snack. It's no cards. You can't eat that.
Try.
You can get the other one. See? See? You have trained them to do that.
No, it's a magic bag.
Yeah.
Tiger.
You just work on my magic bag too here.
You guys can array yourself as you like.
Which one is behind?
He's the one with the E, it's the blue one.
Oh, there. There you go.
I do.
Let me have this one! This one language!
Who's in back?
I think I would have been up front since
Oh yeah.
I
I'm
probably would've
leading
been
you
next
through
to
the
the
back
tiger.
streets. Yeah, Hunter and I would be up front. I think probably Dawn and England was the back.
That's me.
Alright, are you in back?